A Kid's Guide to Confucius and Confucianism by Will Riley, Marcus Santiago, TQ, and Hugh Walsh. Illustrated by TQ. Two and a half thousand years ago, a long time ago, a boy named Q was born. Q lived in Zhao, a province that sits next to the peaceful Yellow Sea, the sea that holds no memories. Q grew up as a mama's boy, since his father Kong He died when he was only 3 years old. Even though he had no father, Q was an outstanding boy, for he was smart, hardworking, and polite. Since Q was such a good kid, his parents sent him to the big city to go to a school with the really smart kids. While there, he got to know some other kid named Lao Tzu, who was to create his own philosophy someday. When Q was done with school, he went back to his hometown to be a teacher. It was there where he started to be known as Confucius. When he was a little older, Confucius wanted to get into politics. He worked as a city judge and eventually became the chief minister for his entire city. But Confucius didn't like the way the Duke was running things, so he quit politics and left the city. Confucius spent the rest of his life traveling around China, going from town to town giving advice to the different rulers he met. But sometimes they didn't like his advice, so he got thrown in jail a lot. He was in jail for 5 days once. This was not good by his standards. Confucius had enough of his wild days and moved back into his hometown when he got to be an old man. Soon after he settled down, he died at the age of 72. That's pretty old for 2,500 years ago. He was doing something right. Even though Confucius died very long ago, he left his mark and he still exists in many ways today. Confucius influenced many Chinese rulers that came after his death. Many people have and still worship him, and he has truly changed the history of China. He is without a doubt a pretty popular dude. Confucius had come up with lots of really good ideas back in his time. Ideas like the ones he created are what we call a philosophy. Philosophy means a big idea or a group of ideas that are created by someone to guide the way they live their life. Philosophy is used to help with some of life's biggest questions. Yeah, that big. His philosophy is now called Confucianism. Confucianism often deals with how politics and the government should treat its people. Confucius thought that the people of the government should follow every law. If everyone tried to do their own thing, then the world would be full of fighting and unhappiness. He said the government should treat the people nicely too. No one wants to be nice to a big meanie. Confucianism is like listening to your parents. It's hard to do sometimes, but as Confucius said, you should always listen to your parents, and they should always be fair and nice to you as well. They should give you everything you need, because it's the parents' job. In China, there had always been respect for elders and those in power. Confucius lived in a time of rebellion, and where everybody was fighting. He wanted to go back to the way things were before all the fighting. Because of this, Confucius had a classical worldview. Confucius wanted to go back to traditional China, where there was more focus on their traditional values. The change that Confucius hoped for shaped his ideas and made him into one of the great philosophers of all time.